Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight we have Mia Mason hosting with the Towson University Democrats, accompanied by Joel and Evelina. I'm going to go ahead and start us off by introducing our guests tonight. Mia is a 20-year veteran who served in the U.S. Army, Navy, and D.C. National Guard. She served for 20 years before retiring. She's running for Maryland's 1st District for Congress. Evelina is a junior at Towson University with a major in political science and a minor in Spanish. She's currently a second-year president for the College Democrats of Towson University, and she's also the communications director for the College Democrats of Maryland. Did you guys want to add anything else to your introductions? Evelina?
No, I'm just really...
All right, perfect. Then we'll just go ahead and get started. I just want to remind everyone that the purpose of tonight is really to kind of encourage the youth to get out and vote, kind of how to vote, why to vote, and we're going to be answering all of those questions tonight. Before we get into that, I wanted to ask the audience, why do you think that it's important for the youth to get out and vote? So why do you think is the most important issue, and why should they get out and vote? You can go ahead and drop your answers into the chat box or into the comments, and we'll go ahead and read those aloud and address those. And while those are coming in, I'll go ahead and turn that question over to our hosts tonight. So why do you think it's important for the youth to get out and vote? Mia, we'll start off with you.
Because honestly, it may be their first time able to vote, and it is important that they continue to do this every year. And the reason that their vote is so important is it's counted. It provides them represent dollars that they need to help them in their. So that is why it's super important, regardless of whatever your feelings are about whatever election that every year. Make sure that you put in your what you could oversee could be, and then have to wait to get audit in order to protect our country. So to protect your communities and to see change, you need to be able to voice your opinion and actually put it in the ballot box.
Absolutely. Evelina, you want to go ahead and answer that for us and kind of talk to your peers a little bit more about why is it important for the youth to get out and vote?
Yeah, of course. So, as we've seen recently with all of the protests and, over time, the youth is so important and they are the future. Like, we are the future. We are the generation that's going to go out and actually create our own future and the future of our children. And especially this election is so important because it will define not only the next 4 years of our lives, even the years after that. And it's just, the youth needs to go out and vote. They need to vote because we're the voices that will be continuing to be heard over time. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Joel, did you have anything to add? Why is it important for the youth to vote?
Sure, I'd like to add that especially given that this is the first election that many Generation Z, many of us Zoomers have to vote, where there's an extra importance placed on it, because if we get out and vote in good numbers, it'll show our elected leaders that we're to be listened to, that the issues we care about, that student debt, Green New Deal, universal basic income in the future, we got to keep the party going. We got to be the pulse of it. Stay on top of the news, stay on top of what's current, and get out and be there so that we're listened to and we can make a difference, make things better.
Absolutely. And just to read some of what our viewers are saying out there, Carlos says, we are the future. Absolutely. Melissa says, representation for decisions that will affect your future. Fiona and Olivia say, young people have needs and concerns too, and it's important that we're being heard, especially on things like climate change, which will affect us in 10, 20, and even 100 years from now. Kayla says, it's important to vote because we are the ones that will be shaping our future in the community. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with everything that you guys have said. I think I'll turn it over to Mia because we have quite a few presentations coming to talk a little bit more about why it's important for the youth to vote and how to vote. Mia?
So since you all are Townsend Dems and you are in college, it is time to make sure that we learn something. So it's time for lecture time, and this presentation is brought to you by Schumer. So let's take a look at it and enjoy.
States of America. So this presentation is a very brief overview of the different policies and regulations that were passed on a federal level regarding voting in the U.S. So in 1776, the beginning of the United States, only white land-owning men who are 21 and older can vote. So this changes in 1868 when the 14th Amendment is passed, which basically gives voting and citizenship rights to all men naturalized or born in the U.S. The 14th Amendment does not include people of color or women. In 1870, the 15th Amendment is ratified, which asserts that the rights of individuals shall not be denied based on the account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. So although the 15th Amendment included African Americans in this, many states just went around this federal law by instituting literacy tests and poll taxes, as well as just generally practicing, basic fraud and voter intimidation to ultimately prevent minorities from voting. So in 1920, the 19th Amendment is finally ratified and women are included in the U.S. narrative. Here are some images that show how women were not given the right to vote. They literally had to take it through protesting and through being out on the streets, trying to have media attention and trying to gain political attention regarding their ability to vote and the importance of them being included as citizens of the U.S. and included in the narrative of the U.S. In 1924, the Indian Citizenship Act is passed, and Native Americans are now considered to be U.S. citizens and have voting rights. The 1960s were huge for civil rights. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, and all men and women aged 21 and older, regardless of race, religion, or education, now have the right to vote. In 1964, the 24th Amendment was passed, and poll taxes were eliminated. In 1965, the Voting Rights Act was ratified, and literacy tests are suspended, and now registration and voting rights are now federally enforced. And this is really important because ultimately states had the power beforehand, and states were able to pass certain voting rights and take certain voting regulations away based on their own whim. And with the 1965 Act, voting rights and registration are now federally enforced, and the federal government ultimately has the most amount of power regarding creating a uniform structure for voting. In 1984, the Voting Accessibility for the Elderly and Handicapped Act is passed, and now polling places must be accessible to all individuals. So what does voting look like now? Has voting gotten better? Voting rights? I don't know, it's debatable. In 2013, we had the Shelby County versus Holder Supreme Court case. And the Supreme Court case was highly problematic because Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act is essentially gutted. And what is Section 5? It basically talks about how in jurisdictions that previously instituted policies that prevented minorities from voting, if they had to make any changes, it had to go through the federal government. They had to get approval to actually make these changes. So Section 5 is removed through the Supreme Court case, and that basically gave more powers to the states to suppress people of color. Since the 2013 Act, we see that thousands of 1,000 or more of polling places in African American and minority communities have actually been shut down. And this is problematic because this means that during election day, individuals have to travel farther and actually have to make other arrangements on how to find a polling place and actually vote. In 2020, we're seeing the issue with felony disenfranchisement and the mail-in ballots. For felony disenfranchisement, a statistic from 2016 talks about how there's 6.1 million Americans, most of whom who are people of color, are unable to cast their ballots on election day due to prior felony convictions. In the mail-in ballot issue, you have an administration in power, you have the president talking about how mail-in ballots are unsafe and how they lose them, which is untrue whatsoever, and perpetuating this notion to essentially undermine the U.S. postal system and the ability of individuals who want to be safe and who are at risk during a pandemic to vote in a fair election. So what can you do? Vote, essentially. There are inequities and inequalities that exist within the current electoral and institutional system. Undoubtedly, there are. But voting allows individuals to elect leaders that will fight for them and for the rights of marginalized communities to have a say in the society that we all live in. So please make sure you register now. If I could leave you with one thought, I would urge you to understand that the system does not have to be corrupt. We, the people, have the power to change the existing power hierarchy, and the government draws its power from the people. So for all those who fought and died for our right to vote, for all those who lost their jobs when they were protesting and protested day and night, just for the ability to vote, the basic ability that we take for granted, I urge you to show up in November and vote and cast a ballot, because we owe it to them and we owe it to our future generations. Thank you.
Well, hi. How are you? We can all get unmuted again. So what did y'all think about that presentation?
Well, I thought it was a wonderful description of our voting history done by our Civil Rights Director, Shivani. I think it's really important. I still can't believe that it was only 1920 when women got the right to vote. And I mean, just 100 years ago, we weren't allowed to vote.
I agree. And speaking of wonderful things, I've introduced somebody very special who has joined us. This is Amy Schumer. So please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you've been able to do for our communities.
Hi, me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's important that we acknowledge that white women got the right to vote 100 years ago, but Black women didn't get the right to vote till the 60s, as we know. And I have been actually protesting every day in my community where I am, on Martha's Vineyard. There was a woman standing in the median, and a Black woman in her 60s with a Black Lives Matter sign, and I got out and I stood next to her, and we just stood there, and we didn't talk until, I don't know, maybe like an hour later, and she said she wanted to kneel for George Floyd, but didn't bring a towel, and the ticks were really bad that day. So we made a plan to come back the next morning and kneel together, and we went back that next morning, and we've met every day since then, actually. And but like about 50 people a day all join us, and we have action items, and we honor the life of a Black life stolen by law enforcement, and we kneel for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And I'm also really proud to have been able to support Sarah McBride in Delaware. And, I'm doing everything I can to get people out to vote. And I'm just so honored even to be on this Zoom, because I'm such a fan of yours, Mia. And thank you for your service. That's just like a sentence, but really thank you. And I hope so much. I know you're in a tough district, and I just hope so much that people vote for you and for good versus clear evil. It's really as simple as that. And you symbolize everything that I care about, and acceptance and inclusivity and intersectionality. And I'm so grateful that you've decided to give back to your community in this way, and I wish you so much luck.
Thank you. I know it's really hard. In fact, some of Sarah McBride's family lives in our district, and even other friends like Danica Rome are supportive of this race, and to have that support. And thank you for talking about my military service. It was a long and glorious time. That's why I'm able now to use that as my passion to continue what I do now to help others. You were from Townsend University. How do you think things have changed between now and then?
Oh gosh. Well, I think the school is better now, because if I was able to get in, that means it was not that hard of a school to get in, no offense. But now I heard it's like a really good school, and it's kind of hard to get in. So I'm really proud that I went there. I remember, it felt like my experience of being there was very inclusive. But, everything in retrospect probably wasn't what it seemed to be. I just finished that book, Cast, by Isabel Wilkerson, and everyone has to read that book as soon as possible. And, but, we felt very safe in our little town of Townsend, but, all around us, there was a lot going on, that we were sheltered from.
Yeah, especially when you come up north and you go past the dam and you go toward the end of 83 into Pennsylvania, it's a different life. It's a different,
Yeah.
story altogether. In fact, even if you go to the inner city of Baltimore or Prince George's or out on the Eastern Shore, where things are scarce, you wonder where you can survive with. And it's about knowing those who are around you and getting their support, just like what you're doing on the street corner to create that activism and tell people to get out the vote. Because this is what is going to really matter to make sure that things get changed. Because since 2017, this administration has striped everything that Shivani has talked about and tried to, take away our civil rights, including now our voting privileges, and is trying to take us all to court to say that it's a fraud election, and it isn't. If we're winning 2-1 right now, what's stopping us? It's, making sure that we get out to the youth and tell them to vote, the elders to vote, tell them that they're last to vote, and say, look, you really want change, you need to get Joe in there, you need to get Kamala in there. She's going to be in the VP debate tonight. And of course, get me into Congress. Let's be the first to something. I honestly didn't expect to be the first to something when I won my primary, and here I am, trailblazing and making history. So it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Would y'all like to talk to her, ask her any questions?
I do have a question. Amy, since tonight is all about empowering the youth and really motivating the youth to get out and vote, what would you say is the most important reason, or, why should the youth get out and vote?
Oh, gosh. We need you. And we're sorry, because we wish that it had been us that fixed everything, but we need you. We need to learn from you. And so, you want to say, everybody's voice is important in this election, and you want to be proud that you used your vote as soon as you could. You'll never regret using your vote and using your voice. And it's fun. It feels good, and it's something to get your friends excited about doing and posting about. And mail-in voting is completely safe, and it always has been. And and social media, I mean, a lot of people are going to be coming at you, especially right after the election, and you have to choose your sources carefully, I would say, where you're getting your news. Check out your options and see what feels right to you. End of my answer.
Thank you so much. So what you're saying is that OAN and Breitbart, we should be getting our news from them.
Exactly. If you want all the facts.
All of
just
the
go right there. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for answering our question. We actually talked to a lot of other Towson Democrats and young Democrats in the area to get their take on why they think it's important for the youth to vote. Mia, did you want to add anything?
I think, one of the best things that we can do is, get into the next presentation, let people see, who is supporting us from their communities, young, old, and why it's important to vote. I think that would be super beneficial if you want to stick around and hang out with us, talk to people in the chat. Is that cool with you?
Me?
Yes.
Sure, I'll stick around.
Okay, awesome. Well, give me a sec to get this video going.
I am in a storm here, so if I lose you, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
It's probably that new hurricane we heard about that might be coming our way. So.
Yeah, that might be it. It does seem like that outside here.
All right.
The Declaration of Independence states that all men are created equal. I believe the Democrats are working towards creating a more equal society. They're not perfect, but their policies support me as a black man, my friend that's an LGBTQ, my sister that's a black woman, and any other minority groups. And that's the reason why I'm a Democrat.
I am a Democrat because the party recognizes that the blending of many cultures, like the ingredients in a stew, creates the true American culture. Each individual vote adds to the economic growth and the social advancement of our nation. Continue to vote Democratic. Thank you. See you at the polls.
Hi, my name is Stephen, and what makes me a Democrat is I'm willing to fight for justice and equality. As a Democrat, I'll also fight for progress as well. We cannot stand still in time and hope for things to change. That is why the Democratic Party is the party of change.
Hello, my name is Rita Hewitt, and why am I a Democrat? Pretty basic and straightforward for me. I believe in honesty, I believe in decency, and I believe in kindness. And the Democratic Party exudes that and many other qualities and traits for me. We believe in diversity. Diversity is a trait that strengthens us as a nation. I've always believed in the values of the Democratic Party, and I will continue to support them. I voted for Barack Obama, and I plan to support Joe Biden.
I will vote for Democrats this year because my faith compels me to support candidates that promote the inherent worth and dignity of every human being and work to realize the right to vote for every citizen of my beloved United States of America.
And I'm Derek Terry. Accountability, diversity, integrity. I am a lifelong Democrat. Peace and blessings.
Why am I a Democrat? Because the Democratic Party believes in the importance of supporting the middle-class family, growing opportunities for our children, and providing a first-class education. It is time now, more than ever, that we lift those who cannot walk, to feed those who have no food, and to speak for those who have no voice, for the least of us are the most deserving. So why are we Democrats? We are our brothers and sisters' keepers. One nation, one people, focused to build back better.
It's important to vote so that you have a say in our future. A lot of people around the world do not have the ability to express themselves in this way. But as Americans, it's our right to have a say in our future and who represents us in government.
Hi, my name is Shane. I'm 19 years old, and I'll be voting by mail this November because climate change threatens my future, and I just want a chance to enjoy it.
Hi everyone, my name is Molly, and I'm here to talk with you about how important it is for you to vote this year.
Hi, my name is Heather Cantos. I am a gun violence prevention advocate in Harford County, Maryland.
Hello, my name is Christina Impalaria. I'm a teacher, a homeowner, and a libertarian.
Hey everyone, my name is Kimberly, and I'm going to be talking about the importance of voting and why I am voting Democrat.
Hi, I'm Marat Perez, a student at Towson.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm a student nurse at Towson University and Mia Mason's campaign manager.
Hi everyone, my name is Shivani Pillai, and I'm the Director of Civil Rights for Mia Mason's Congressional campaign.
Hi, I'm Congressman Anthony Brown, and I'm so excited to serve Maryland in Congress, and even more excited for the opportunity to welcome Mia Mason to the 117th Congress in January.
Hey everybody, this is Congressman Sarbanes. Just want to join you in support of Mia Mason and the Towson University Democrats.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and I just wanted to come on here because a lot of you all that are now hitting that age where you are now able to cast your vote, it's time for you to make sure that you do just that. There have been a lot of people that have died so that you can have that right, but let me tell you something. Health care for all, college, possibly even free college tuition, The only way that's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, is that people like yourself get up there and actually start casting those votes and start demanding more for your elected officials. Don't let this election go without making sure that they hear your voice. Sappers cleared away and they're going on the way.
Why is voting important? For one, it is the most fundamental part to a democracy. It allows us individuals to have a say in what we personally want for our communities, for our state, for the nation, for society as a whole.
Mia's platform is based on equity and equality. You know, as a Democrat, as a woman, and as a person of color, I recognize that there are structural and institutional barriers that prevent marginalized communities from achieving social and economic success. It is so important to elect a Democrat because they recognize and understand and comprehend the cycle of inequality and generational inequality that exists in society today.
I have never voted for a Democrat in a presidential election, but I'm very excited to vote for Joe Biden in 2020. I'm voting for Joe Biden because he believes in science and he will fight climate change. I'm voting for Joe Biden because he understands institutional racism in America and he will fight for all of my students, not just the ones that look like him.
Your vote is your voice. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. I want to also admit that as adults, we have really left you a mess. And so I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for you to vote, not to save us, but for you to remake the world in the image that you want it to be seen. Universal basic income, climate change is real. Trans rights, LGBTQ, all of these types of things that are human rights and are issues that are going to shape your future are in your hands, literally.
If you're upset with everything this administration has done, you need to get out and vote for Mia Mason and Joe Biden. They will commit to investing in a clean energy plan that not only converts our country to a clean energy economy, but creates thousands of jobs along the way. For me, I'm voting for Mia Mason and Joe Biden to save our planet, and you should too.
I would like to urge everyone to vote Democrat because I truly believe this is the most important election in our lifetime. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. So much is at stake, from the Supreme Court, the COVID crisis, the economy, and so many important issues. People's lives are at stake.
We need more members like Mia, who served our nation in uniform. Mia is a combat veteran who not only understands national security issues, but also is a problem solver. And believe me, we need more problem solvers on Capitol Hill. This election is so consequential, and your vote matters. Every American has both a right and a responsibility to vote. Whether you value health care and protecting those with pre-existing conditions, or whether you value LGBT rights, gender equality, voting rights, or human rights, if you care about our environment and our standing in the world, this election is for you, and you simply cannot afford to sit this one out. So be sure to vote. Vote by mail, vote early, or have a plan for Election Day. Your vote counts because you count.
I believe that voting is our most important right as Americans, and I believe that you, our next generation, is ready to lead us into the future. I've seen what young people can do. After the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, student survivors created March for Our Lives, a nationwide organization dedicated to ending the gun violence epidemic, and they organized the largest day of protests against gun violence in history. And Students Demand Action groups in high schools and colleges across the country didn't let a pandemic stop them from committing to register 100,000 young voters by November 3rd.
By electing leaders that recognize the system and the inequities that the system persists and upholds, we're able to create a more inclusive and foster a more caring environment and society that benefits us all. It is so important to vote in November, not just for the president, but for all types, local, national, and state. Your life and the abilities that you have as a person are stringent on who is elected and who is in power.
Mia is running a great race in Maryland's 1st Congressional District. It's, of course, a continuation of her long career of public service, and I want to thank her for stepping into the arena with her candidacy. And I also want to salute the Towson University Democrats for understanding that this is the moment when we have to engage young voters, get them to the polls. They could be the margin of victory in this very, very important, forget about important, this is historic election, the most important in the life of our country, really. And engaging young voters is going to be absolutely critical.
The reason I got involved with the Towson College Democrats and why it's important to vote is because I simply cannot sit on the sidelines, nor should any decent American. If Trump wins and gets his way, I cannot have it in my conscience that I did nothing to stop it. The only way we can stop it is if we get up, we vote, and we fight, and that we encourage others to do the same. So please go out and vote.
It is said that Ben Franklin, when he left the Constitutional Convention, was accosted by a woman, Mrs. Powell, who said to him, "What's it going to be, Dr. Franklin? What do we have, a republic or a monarchy?" And Ben Franklin said to her, and everyone knows this story, he said to her, "A republic, madam, if you can keep it." Well, this election is the if you can keep it moment in the history of our country. This was the moment that Ben Franklin was talking about, that he was cautioning us about. This is the chance to pull our country back from the precipice, pull our democracy back from the cliff, the abyss, turn, face the rising sun of opportunity before us, and march towards a better day. But it's only going to happen if we get people to the polls, and that's the job of every Democrat, up and down the ballot, if they're an official or a candidate that's running, and it's the job of every Democrat who is an activist or a voter or just somebody who cares deeply about their community and their country. So thank you for stepping up. I appreciate it. Let's get to work. We've only got a few weeks left. Let's go do this.
There you go, folks. It's the way that we get things done. You getting out to go vote. You have only like 5-6 days to make sure that you're registered to vote. After that, you got another 5 or 6 days to make sure that you request your ballot. And then, of course, you can actually go to the polling place, early voting, get your ballot, put it in a ballot box, and make your voice heard. Tell your story to us. Call me, 410-94-MASON. I'm the type of candidate that actually listens and done for you. These reasons that you've heard from congressional leaders, students, activists, veterans, and friends of mine is a reason that I state that I'm a veteran of. Our communities are still getting hurt by this administration. Every day when they're being turned away for health care, COVID, or we need to be able to stand and protect that. That's why we're fighting to run for office. In the next couple of weeks, we need you to volunteer. Join us, make some phone calls, drop off some literature, stand at the polls and provide literature to those who are uninformed about what we are and who we are, and stand up and say, "I'm with you." That's the most important part that we've done, is to share that story, share your story, and why you are voting for that. What we need. This is
Absolutely, Mia. And just to recap, those dates again are the registration deadline to vote in Maryland is October 13th. Early voting is October 26th to November 2nd. So make sure that you get those ballots in early.
from Towson University. Would you like to provide any closing remarks?
I just want to say that as we saw through this whole rally, how crucial it is to vote, and not only just the next 4 years, as I mentioned previously, but also basic human rights are on the line, as we've seen, especially now with the Supreme Court. So we just gotta keep the mindset going and just get to the finish line, hopefully, with the results that we're expecting. And I also have a question. I don't know if I'm able to ask it to Mia and Amy, if I can.
Okay. Okay. What's your advice for us to just stay motivated? Because, you know, we do try to stay as motivated as we can, but there's times when we just kind of fall down a little bit. I mean, we try to get back up, but we just have our days when we're not as motivated. So what's your advice for the youth for that?
Well, for me personally, I had a down day, like 2 days. Didn't feel good to do. I had to reflect that, you know, about 7 days ago was another reason why being service due to poor leaders. And I had to contemplate and go around and tinker and make sure that I could. I gave myself something else well on whatever past problems I may have, and make new problems, make some new trouble, you know, make things for our community, find an inspirational way to solve the problem that might be in everybody. That's what I had to do. Took a day and a half, but I got back on the horse. That resiliency taught through my military and leadership really helped. That's what we need. Just don't need somebody who says no all the time. How about you, Amy?
I was lucky enough to listen in on a conversation with Gloria Steinem and Paula Giddings a couple weeks ago, and I wrote down a couple of the things that they said to me. Gloria Steinem is always reminding me and, you know, all of us that that activism has to be fun, and you have to keep yourself laughing, and, you know, and then a couple of the things. So one of the things that that Gloria, because her and Paula have been friends for a really long time, is she said, you know, Paula's a woman of color and Gloria's white, and Gloria was like, just tell me when I fuck up, you know, like just have that kind of casual, if I say something, if I do something, just tell me, you know, and having that open communication with each other so you're not afraid. And she said, gather and gather often. Network should be horizontal. We can't do this alone. And just go for the whole thing, which is exactly what you're doing, Mia. Yeah, just going for the whole thing, and any backlash, you know, like John Lewis would tell us, is good and is being on the right side of history. So I'm so grateful to you, and you embody all of those things, and yeah, and your community, which is amazing. And I'm so glad you invited me to watch that. It was really inspiring and exciting, and, you know, you've obviously fostered an amazing family and community there. So thank you.
And a question in from the audience. We did talk about laughter. So do you have any sketch gold that you might still have in the forefront besides your little one who?
Well, okay, I can let you in on a secret, but it has to be off the record just for us. But I'm really proud.
It's not gonna be off the record at all, so it needs to be something, because this is definitely part of 1,000.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody just don't say anything. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say it then, because I guess I just won't say it then. Yeah, I was just proud because I wrote a joke, and my friend was able to use it hosting SNL this week, but I'm not going to call out which one it was. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's been so hard, like, to write jokes. I mean, this is what happened. I said this to my husband the other day. We were sitting on, like, 2 rocking chairs. It looked like it was about to rain. It was nice. It was a nice moment. And I said, you know, I want to just say that even though this is such an insane moment, and I said, this has actually been the best time of my life. And he said, I'm going to roll the car windows up. And I was like, okay, I thought we were going to have a moment, but yeah,
But so, you know, just the comedy of that everybody has in their family.
I think it's going to be wonderful because we would love to see you again, you to do more things, diversity, to give back to our community. And
Yeah.
we look forward to seeing what type of jokes may be coming into SIU.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, when they invite me back.
Good, good. All right, it looks like we had something else that came in. Lauren, did you want to read that? It's from Brian.
Absolutely. Brian Smith says, "Hi, my name is Brian and I'm the Vice President of Towson Democrats. I just wanted to say thank you so much to both Amy and Mia for being such pioneers in their fields. It's so important to vote in this election because our generation on the whole is not represented by people like Andy Harris, Mia's opponent, both in views and in their refusal to work with young people with their new visions for this country. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us all. People like me who live in District 1 are more than willing to help in any way we can to get Mia Mason elected." Absolutely. Reach out to me, Lauren at miadmason.us, if you want to get involved. Carlos has a question for Mia. The University of Maryland Eastern Shore is the only historically Black college in Maryland's 1st Congressional District. What are your plans for helping out this college and other historically Black colleges and universities?
Well, I think it's about making sure that we provide an incentive for everyone to be cool. You know, it's just like the folks at Howard University and what they do to recruit the community. You know, and we need to be sure that if you're going to college, you also have per capita goals. So this is where it gets into my education plan to pay off student debts, and then to make sure that a company is able to invest in you, then send you to college so that you get the on-the-job experience and a degree at the same time while going to school, just like Lauren is right here. She's learning what she loves to do and is being a nurse. I mean, look, tell me about your wonderful C-section that happened just a week ago. And I have to say, you know, like, I know what that looks like too. And I know how bad and bloody it is. But here's the thing. You wouldn't have gotten it anywhere else if you didn't go to school and you didn't have an employer that was willing to help you out. So this is what I'm trying to do. And then to help pay for that, you know, it's about getting other products onto the market that can be produced by our farmers to then provide the revenue to make this happen. You know, so to make sure that even our HBCUs are protected, it's about making sure that we incentivize them and work with them directly and bring them forward. You know, let's get their story here on the air.
Absolutely. Does anyone have any other questions or closing remarks?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Amy for coming too. I think it's important in light of serious events like that. I'm sure most people here have seen Dave Chappelle's 846 piece, and it can show, people say the pen's mightier than the sword. I think the laugh can be too. I think part of defeating evil is being able to look at it and laugh at it for the absurdity of it, because one of the greatest moments of the debates was when Biden called him a clown. I think it can help Biden out because sometimes he stutters, he falters a little bit. He's a human being, and Trump will attack that viciously. If Biden can spin it and say, well, maybe I'd be fumbling less if I had more bleach in my bloodstream, something like that will get laughs and be a hit against Trump. They can't take it because they're thin-skinned, and I think comedy is a good tool to strike back.
I completely agree. I can't wait to see the debate tonight or, you know, next week, and then actually see, you know, Vice President Joe Biden with the remote there and shut up, you know, President Trump. I think that would be really helpful to have a serious moderator control the baby in White House.
That was such a good comment. Like that whole comment. Thank you for that. And you're obviously a true comedy fan. And I'm absolutely doing everything I can, like trying to get, I'm sending in jokes. I hope that would be so, I would like to see him fire back personally, but that's because I'm a comedian. But I think you're right. And I think because he is so thin skinned that he really doesn't like being made fun of. And so, you know, I'm a toxic person, so I would like to see people do that to him more.
I agree. And you're absolutely right about comedy. Definitely a healer. I used to be a lot younger, so serious in the military. Every joke went over my head. But, you know, being in combat and trying to survive that really gave me a spirit, especially when you're facing death and you basically have to laugh in the face of it and say, you didn't get me today, I'm going home. So,
That's how we feel about our C-sections also.
It's the recovery time's always the hardest. So, we can go into this all night, Lauren, couldn't we?
Absolutely. But just to close it off, we do have one more question that I wanted to get in. It's from Shivani, who's our civil rights director, who did that lovely voting education history PowerPoint presentation. She asks, do you have any advice for young adults who feel discouraged by the current system, as well as how to engage those individuals who've kind of given up on the political system? I know personally that I have a lot of friends who are apolitical or not involved in that kind of stuff. So what would you say to those kinds of people? I think this question goes out to Amy.
Okay, well, I'm older. I'm 39, so when you have a baby and you get older, you just like cut those people out of your life. But honestly, you know, I have some friends and they're registered, they'll vote, and we're all voting for Biden, but they, you know, they're not out there protesting or getting arrested. Like it's different levels, but no, I've let go of a lot of friends, you know. That's yeah. You just at a certain point you say, wow, like, you know, it's like you don't have to wonder what you would have done in during the civil rights movement. Like we're in it right now. So that's it, you know.
Think of it as like high school reunions. Where did you go? Where did you see your friends? Probably had one, but I remember going to mine and people confused me for a lot of other people because, you know, we've been gone that far along. And then when we started talking about things, it's like, I remember you and all. And what are you doing? It's like, well, our office. Really? So these are the wonderful things, you know, even when you get to see old friends, and of course, like, else wanting to do is go make new friends, but she's afraid to go out the front door during the pandemic. And did you know there's a thing called Zoom? You can join me, but it's just one of those things that we have to be able to our community see that with President. I think that's going to be golden for us. So dark, need that one. Get us all the way. So with that, I want to wish everybody good night. Thank you so much for helping us out, especially Dennis and Lauren. It's been a blessing to all of us. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ian Mason. I'm running for Congress. Our voters are at the helm in 2020 because our education has failed us. Our infrastructure has failed us. With your driving force, we can fix that, especially in our healthcare, because your vote actually matters and you have the choice in 2020. I'm Ian Mason, and I approve this message.